Welcome to our session today. We're being on time, and whoa, we've got quite a few attendees, so that's amazing. It just goes to show we've got lots of people out there using Xero that would like to know what the next hero is, which is NetSuite, we believe. But that's what we're here to talk about. So kia ora, welcome. I really appreciate your time attending the session. So today we're going to talk to you about what that next step is. Using a Xero platform, great platform for startup businesses. It gets a bit convoluted once you grow, right? So NetSuite's just a natural progression. So what we're going to do with today is to run through that with you. We're going to go through an agenda and what that looks like, and then do some introductions off the back of that. So
looks like we may have lost Paula. I will jump in very quickly and take you through the agenda. So a little bit of information first on Annexa. We are a leading NetSuite implementation partner. We're award-winning, as you can see there. We're a partner of the year for 2022 and for 2023. We offer full service capabilities with integrations, extensions, and partnerships. We have people in our business that have been with us for over 30 years now. We're at 200 plus implementations with various clients, and we bring on new clients every week. At the moment, we have a team of 65 located across Australia. So we have a team in Melbourne, Sydney, myself, I'm in Brisbane, we have somebody on the Gold Coast. We also have a team in New Zealand and across Asia as well. Paula, back over to you. I carried on whilst you disappeared briefly.
Simon, you did well. Gosh, I know. I did it this morning as well. I mean, that's technology, right? We're online. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it. I know you're doing all the technical stuff, and this is meant to be my ad lib, but you did a great job. So thanks for that.
Looks like we lost. All right, Paula, are you still there?
Here I am. Sorry. Okay. Introductions, who we are, where we fit into the Annexa world. So myself, I'm not normally this bad when I do demonstrations. I tell you, it just must be the flu coming on. I'm the business development manager for Annexa. I've been with the team, believe it or not, 9.5 years. I don't know where that's gone. Based in Melbourne head office for 6.5 of those years at HQ. And then we pivoted back over here to the beautiful Aotearoa to sort of wave our flag of Annexa and tell the beautiful stories that we've done in Australia and how we've helped companies from big and small, navigating, looking at NetSuite, doing their due diligence. So it's been a really exciting journey for me. And I'll hand you over to the lovely Simon House. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Paula. So I'm, I guess, at the opposite end of the Annexa life cycle to Paula. I'm 10 months today with the business, but that said, I've known Annexa and worked with them for the last 10 years as a client at various organizations. So my background is I'm an accountant by qualification. I've held CFO and finance director roles in both ASX listed and privately held companies. I've done multiple Xero to NetSuite and other system to NetSuite implementations as a client. And subsequent to that, I worked as a private contractor for a while doing NetSuite implementations. And for the last 10 months, as I mentioned, with Annexa, again, a multitude of Xero to NetSuite and other system to NetSuite implementations.
Great. Thanks, Simon. So what we'll be running through today for you is the 6 points we've got on the screen there. So the overview of ERP and NetSuite, a snapshot of the enterprise architecture of the platform, key differences of Xero versus NetSuite, which is really exciting. Some use cases, real world examples, and we're going to deep dive into the key capabilities of NetSuite. And we're going to have a session at the end with Q&A. And apologies if some housekeeping I didn't do privy. If you've got any questions or anything you'd like answered, just pop them into the chat okay, on the side there, on the side panel, and we'll get to those at the end of the session, or we'll answer those post the session. So hopefully we'll have some time. We've got a lot of people on the call today, so we're looking forward to some really, really good engagement and questions and feedback that we can do on the fly for you. Great stuff. So NetSuite, I'm sure you would have heard the name before out there in the market. NetSuite, sweet as sweet, everything's sweet with NetSuite. It's quite a pun, but what a really, really beautiful platform that has oh, I'm sorry, my discs aren't coming out, which works across all industries. So starting off with the actual platform itself, being a unified cloud platform, it's built for the cloud, right? So it was actually built before Salesforce back in the day. Multi-tenanted, built on the back end of Oracle. So you've got that Oracle back end sort of driving the platform. As well as that, it's built to run all sorts of businesses. You'll see, apologies, this was meant to come out, but it just hasn't done that. It goes and it looks after any sort of industries, from your warehouse management, from your manufacturing, from your e-com, from your fintechs, you know, your startups, to your big companies. In fact, a lot of big companies are switching from big stacks onto NetSuite because it's nice and easy to use. The keys are to your kingdom, right? As well as that, point and click customization. You know, you don't need to bring the consultants in to spend thousands of dollars to do so. You can actually skill up and do that yourself, which is again, you know, technology where it's going. Moving up to what it can do, and it's in far as sort of multi-book, multi-language, multi-currency, multi-tax. It just goes on and on. So a global platform for your business. If you're not going global, that's fine. You can still have 10 companies in the one spot and transact, consolidate, and do all that real cool, funky stuff that you should be doing in 2024. Going in, and as well as that, we're looking at what we can do with RevRec. We now leverage Oracle Stack using the Analytics Warehouse tool, planning and budgeting, month-end close, AR, process automation, workflows that you can do yourself, right? The really exciting piece is the AI machine learning. Wow, is that going places? NetSuite don't talk about it a lot because they don't need to. It's already there. We know some of the competitors out there are waving flags and saying all these great things and sending out bouquets, but we know that it's already there with the Oracle NetSuite platforms, and you see it once you're in the suite. So really exciting. It's a really exciting platform to see it evolve from when I started to where it is now. And I think I'm going to hand this beautiful slide over to Mr. House. Simon, take it away.
Thanks very much, Paula. What we're looking at here is the comparison between Xero and NetSuite from an architecture point of view, high level for now, and we'll get into the detail as we progress through the webinar. On the left there, you can see that for Xero, and as you'll all be aware, for every individual subsidiary / company you have to have an individual Xero instance, an entity. And therefore, if you have integrations to third-party products and platforms, you have to integrate those to each of your separate Xero entities. With Oracle NetSuite, there's one Oracle NetSuite instance for all of your companies, whether you have one company or 2 or 30, and whether they're all in the same geographical location or spread out across the world, we have one instance, which means that when you're looking at having multiple integrations to different platforms, you only have to integrate any of those external platforms once into your NetSuite architecture, and then everything works from there. So what we'll look at now is some of the key areas of difference between Xero and NetSuite. And look, I guess before we talk at this, it's probably key to understand that Xero is designed for small business. It's a great tool for startups. I've used Xero, as I mentioned earlier, in businesses. I've used it personally when I was a contractor, as you know, as an individual trader. But there are certainly some areas that NetSuite is a massive step up on. So we're looking at things like multi-entity and global business management. So, you know, we just mentioned that with the architecture there, where you have as many entities as you want across all of the different regions of the world. all within your one instance. And with that, you get consolidated reporting, you get global tax management, you get intercompany transactions and eliminations. And then if we continue on that piece around reporting there, we get some really complex financial reporting. So again, you can run your reports by individual entity, you can run it at the consolidated level. If you have regional groups within your structure, you can run all of your reporting at that group view. And we also then have the ability to really drill down and get some real analysis of those reports and understand what's driving the business and how you can make decisions around profitability of products and sales commissions and all sorts of different things, all within the one instance across all of your businesses. Beyond that, we have a full suite of native and robust modules. Advanced inventory and supply chain, which is mentioned on the left there, is a really good example of some of the native functionality there. We also have advanced revenue management. We have billing, subscription billing for those SaaS companies out there. We also have things like warehousing and assembly builds for the manufacturing companies. Pretty much NetSuite covers for all different industries, all different stages of your business within those inventory industries. Customization and scalability. NetSuite is extremely customizable and scalable. We've talked about all of these different modules you can have and multi-entities and all this. You can certainly have NetSuite if you've got a single entity and you're planning growth. You don't have to know day one what it's going to look like in 2 years' time. The way that NetSuite's built is you can start small, and as your business grows and evolves and develops, you can tack on additional modules. You can bring in additional entities, different currencies. So you have that ability to scale as your business grows and changes. And from a customization perspective, we'll get into some more detail when we talk about the integration, but we're talking things as simple as changing the look and feel of the UI when you log in, how it looks for individual users, having the home page be very specific to, say, a sales manager versus a sales rep versus an AP officer versus your CFO. We can build dashboards and reports and KPIs individually for each different role or user within your system. And then when we come to that robust integration structure, NetSuite's built on a development platform that's fully customizable. And what that means is that you have the ability to do the customizations that I've talked about, which are kind of more through the UI, but also then do a lot of development coding in the background to be it integrate with third-party platforms or to do some really clever stuff within the system around data and how you want it presented and potentially how you want GL impacts to run depending on your business to do different things to the norm. So what we'll do now is we'll drill into some of those areas that I've just spoken about in a little bit more detail and provide some real world examples around those. So we'll start off with global business management. We've talked to this a little bit already, but key for businesses here is where you're looking to expand into multiple markets and you need multiple entities. NetSuite has that catered. You don't have to go away, as I said, and get multiple different instances that you then got to somehow worry about consolidating outside of your system. NetSuite has that all built in. The little screenshot you've got at the top there that's kind of hidden behind the second one is really showing you within NetSuite how an organization may be set up. So you have like an HQ at the top, and then you have a region for Americas, APAC, EMEA, and within those regions, you have all of your individual subsidiaries. And what you're seeing at the front on that screenshot there is a financial report that's broken down by region and by entity, and that gives you the kind of granularity there that you can drill all the way down. But equally, if you just wanted to see this at a consolidated level, you can roll it all straight back up and see it at that level. And with NetSuite, it supports multi-currency as well. So what it does is it allows you to have transactional FX on your individual transactions, but also consolidated FX for your different entity currency combinations. So for example, if you've got a US entity and an AU entity and your parent's AUD, NetSuite automatically has consolidated rates so that at any point in time, you can run consolidated reporting in your reporting currency of AUD and see those results for US dollars. And equally, if you want to see how your business is performing in local currency, USD, you can just pivot and look at it in local currency as well. And obviously, as you grow and you have those international markets, you have the requirement for tax compliance. NetSuite handles that. Even things like Canadian and US tax, which for those of you that are across it are extremely more complicated than Australia's simple GST. NetSuite has all of that catered. It has an international tax module that we've talked about modules before. That's an example. Has all the specific reports required and all of the reports required for lodgement as well. And then one of the key areas that comes as you grow, and something that auditors will look at, is the ability to have control around who has access to what data, and be that view data or the ability to actually create transactions and edit it. And as you grow, and you want the auditors to be able to place more reliance on your control so that they don't have to do a lot of that functional testing. That becomes really important. And NetSuite is built around users and roles. So within NetSuite, you create your users and then you apply a role to them. And those roles, they're standard out the box roles. And coming back to that customized piece, you can absolutely customize the roles to give everyone permissions based on what you need them to do. And that comes down all the way to, at the highest level, which subsidiaries they have access to, down to departments, down to different reports, different areas within the business and things like that. And NetSuite's really, really good that depending on which roles and permissions you give a user, you can then actually customize the menu so that they only have visibility and access to the relevant areas so that they don't get lost in amongst all of the things they can't see. And finally, on this point, NetSuite has some really strong inbuilt audit controls. It tracks everything. Every time someone touches a record, edits a record, creates a record, NetSuite tracks it, and then we can run reports on all of those audits. You can run reports on who's logged in when, what they did whilst they were logged in, and then, as I say, from a transactional point of view, who's edited what transactions. And equally, as the transactions changed, you can see what the GL impact was before transactions and what it is after. So you get that full end-to-end visibility of every change that's made in the system. So now we'll go on to the customization and scalability. And again, obviously, we talked about this a little bit already, but what we're looking at here from the scalability perspective is, as your business grows, some of your processes get really quite complex, and we're looking to bring those within your system. I can give you an example where one of the businesses I used to work with, we had annual and monthly and weekly invoicing for customers. It was all done offline in spreadsheets. Revenue was done via manual journals into Xero, calculated in Excel spreadsheets. We moved into NetSuite, and it was all just there in NetSuite with modules that we brought in. That advanced revenue does all of your revenue based on whatever rules you want to use. So annual invoicing, and then spreading your revenue across, say, monthly, or whatever works with however you're applying the accounting standard. And as I said before, this the system is not just out of the box. It's built on a development platform that's customizable, and that enables you to do scripting of records within the system and also workflows. Workflows is kind of a more user-friendly version of scripting. My background, as I said before, was accounting, and I didn't know coding. But I taught myself the workflows in the background, and it's very, once you get used to it, it's very intuitive. It's a lot of drag and drop and understanding how things work, and you can really draw that out yourself. Obviously, we're Annexa, we're a consulting practice. We want you to come to us because that's what we do. But when I was the client of Annexa, I used Annexa to start with and taught myself a lot of these things. It's absolutely something you can do. And equally with that development framework, a lot of businesses we work with are really small and don't have an in-house development capability. We do all of that for them. And equally, we work with some really, really large organizations that have a whole house of in-house developers that do a lot of the work themselves, and we will work with them. So it's really, it gives you the ability to kind of work with the system however you want to. And again, coming to this financial reporting piece, and this is one of the powers of NetSuite, when we've talked about the customizations and the global entity management, Xero's reporting for me was always one of the points that I found the weakest within the system. Certainly when it comes to multi-entity and you've got to export your reports from different entities into Excel, or potentially using a third-party system to get those reports in. You don't need to do that with NetSuite. As I mentioned before, all of your reporting is there, it's ready to go, it's customizable. You can look at it top level, bottom level, you can drill into your transactions, but you can also build your own reports. And this gives you the ability to look into KPI reports on, maybe product. You've just introduced a new product into a new market and you're expecting it to do X, Y, Z, but actually it's only doing A, B, C, and you want to understand why, what are the drivers. You can drill into your financial reports to get an understanding of, where are sales strong, where are they not, what's that telling me about the businesses. Is costing, is the price point in one market significantly higher than somewhere else, and we need to, to pivot there. You can get all of that information out of NetSuite. And additionally, NetSuite leverages Oracle's whole kind of infrastructure and architecture, and that gives us the ability to use other systems and additional modules. So there's a really strong planning and budgeting module called NSPB, NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, that allows you to do some really, really detailed budgets, forecasts, and what if scenarios. NetSuite does have basic budgeting already within the system where you can load multiple versions of budgets, but NSPB really takes it to that next level where you can do a lot of that, as I say, what if scenarios and different versions. And finally, on this point, there's the BI and planning. That's, again, it's a really strong addition to the NetSuite core architecture. NetSuite Analytics Warehouse, that gives you the ability to build your own dashboards or use the native dashboards, but just really get a lot more in-depth understanding and analysis of the drivers that are behind it. You can get a lot of kind of trends and rules around that to really understand where some of your key areas to work on and key drivers and things like that are. It's worth also noting that a lot of these things, whilst I'm talking about other modules and add-ons, whereas in the Xero world, you actually have to leave Xero to go to this third-party platform to understand it. Everything we're talking about here is within NetSuite. So it looks and feels like NetSuite. So a user won't necessarily notice the difference. Yes, it's a third-party module or it's another Oracle product that's being integrated, but it's all native and it's the same platform. It's one login and you can click through and it doesn't feel like you're jumping around different systems. And that's a really strong piece of NetSuite. So talking about those modules, we'll move on to those modules now. And, as I mentioned before, Xero's core functionality is strong for what it does for small businesses, but as you grow and you want to do more detailed things, so as I said before, if you look at SaaS businesses with recurring revenue and revenue management and recognition, or you're looking at a manufacturing business that needs to do assembly builds and potentially have kit products and things like that, and warehousing and integrations with third-party logistics companies, Xero is very much integrating externally to third-party systems, whereas NetSuite has a whole bunch of native modules, which again feels like you're in the system. So there's a really, really strong inventory management and warehouse management system. Manufacturing too, we've got project management, time and expense, project accounting. And across the Annexa team, we have experts in all of these different areas, be that from commercial experience or specifically upskilling as they've worked with Annexa and previously Oracle as well. A lot of our guys have worked with Oracle previously, Oracle NetSuite, and are very much focused on specific areas. So you always with Annexa get someone that's extremely highly skilled and knowledgeable in each of these areas. So we'll move now on to the robust integration structure. I'll be honest, this is not my wheelhouse. This is the development side of things. So I can talk to this a little bit, but it'll be slightly high level. You know, what we've said here is there's that ability within that development platform to do a lot of things inside of NetSuite. There are a lot of native integrations which do require some development work internally. A lot of the coding language within NetSuite is JSON. There's also SQL. There's some HTML stuff for some PDF templates and things like that. I've taught myself some of it over the years so that I could do it myself and not have to use consultants. And that comes back to the point before where, you know, you can absolutely learn this yourself. Beyond that, we kind of have API scalability and iPaaS. So API gives you the ability to connect systems using custom kind of connections. I can give you an example of this. I worked for a buy now, pay later company, and we had a proprietary system that did all of the back end buy now, pay later functionality that we needed to move into NetSuite. Being that it was a proprietary system, there was no native integration because we were the only ones that had that proprietary system. So we used custom APIs that developers built to integrate those two systems. The other option you have there is iPaaS, which is kind of like a middleware to integrate external systems to NetSuite. There are a variety on the market. We have some partnerships with some of the main ones, and a lot of those iPaaS solutions will have pre-built integration pathways. So you think maybe you've got an online store that uses Shopify. Some of the iPaaSes out there will already have pre-built, customized, configured integrations for Shopify to NetSuite, so that you don't have to rethink the wheel and reinvent it. It's there ready to go. There's those middleware ready to do. And it really is, it's not one size fits all. There'll be things that you want to do native integrations. There'll be systems that you may need to do a custom API, and there'll be systems that you want to use the iPaaS. You can do any or all or none of them, depending on how you want to do. And kind of linking it all back to the beginning around that scalability piece. You don't have to do any of it to start with. You can get NetSuite in and you can continue to use your exports into Excel or into other systems. And as you grow and those things become more complex and more difficult, you can tack on an integration to a different system as you go. As it becomes super complex and time consuming, you can look to bring in that system. And then as you go with that one, 6 months down the line, there might be something else that you can then also seek to bring in. So that's kind of an overview of the benefits of NetSuite versus Xero. And what I'll do now is I'll pass back to Paula to go through the Q&A, and I'll be here to answer, hopefully, as many of the questions as I can.
Yeah, we've got a few coming through. So absolutely, Simon. Thank you. And apologies to everyone about the start of the session and me falling off. But yeah, let's get through some of these questions. First of all, we've got one that's come through from Peter, just asking, does NetSuite have a module that allows to management of large CapEx asset investment and management projects?
So yes, NetSuite has a fixed asset module in there. You can, it's linked to transactions within NetSuite. So as you post transactions to your asset accounts, the fixed asset module picks those up and pulls them in. There's a lot of config, not a lot, there's some config in the background which defaults a lot of the values for you as you're going through that process. But within that, you have the ability to run depreciation. You can do asset transfers between locations or departments. You can do revaluations. You can do disposals and sale of assets. It also does some lease management under the new standard with your lease interest expenses, as well as your liabilities there. Absolutely, there's also project management within NetSuite. I haven't personally experienced asset investment in NetSuite, so we'd probably have to come back to you on that, and there'll be somebody within Annexa that knows the answer. It's not something that I've personally seen.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. And we can follow that one up with Peter as well. We've got a couple here from Ava. So asking, they're using Salesforce. Can we integrate NetSuite into Salesforce through looking at revenue recognition as well? Can that be done, and have we done it before? I know we have, but I'll let you answer that sort of technical question if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved in a business where we use Salesforce and we integrated Salesforce into NetSuite. In that instance, we were just bringing customers in, and creating them as customers in NetSuite to be able to record transactions from the proprietary system that I mentioned before. But equally, I've been involved in the 10 months I've been here with a couple of implementations for clients that have Salesforce, and they're bringing in, all the way from leads, converting those into customers when deals are done, bringing in, estimated revenue before the sale's done, and then, transactions come from other systems there. And absolutely, revenue recognition, it's a key driver for a lot of the reasons that I've moved from Xero to NetSuite in the past as a client, is for revenue recognition. As you grow, revenue recognition can be really quite complex. And as I said, doing that in spreadsheets outside of a system and trying to journal it in can get really messy, but NetSuite absolutely has. It's a module called Advanced Revenue Recognition, or Advanced Revenue Management, should I say, ARM. And it absolutely does all of the things you'd expect from a revenue recognition platform in line with the standard.
Great. Thanks, Simon. And Joanne's got a question here. Do we have any offerings for not-for-profits in New Zealand? Absolutely, Joanne, and I can reach out and talk to you. I've dealt with a lot of not-for-profits in Australia before moving back, and actually are dealing with a couple here already. So definitely can reach out and let you know what that looks like. Tara's got a question here. Is Xero able to link to other software? Xero is able to link to other software applications. Can NetSuite do the same, or do you have to spend money on customizing it? So Simon, that goes back to the question we were talking about before on those different, maybe the suite apps, etc. But I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yes and yes to both, I guess. It depends on what the system is, and what you're trying to do with the integration. Absolutely, there are native integrations for third-party products that you can do. Very simple. Create a user in NetSuite, give it the permissions to log into your third-party system, and away you go. It works pretty much as simply as that. Then there are equally some other systems where it will require some customization. Take Salesforce as an example that we've spoken about in some of the other questions. That's a very broad brush to paint, but a lot of Salesforce instances are different for different clients. They're doing different things within their Salesforce. They've got custom fields that are doing things their own way. It's not really possible, therefore, to have a non-customized integration, because your Salesforce is likely to be different to the next customers to the next customers. So there will be some customization required there. And with customization, there is obviously a cost involved. So it kind of depends on which software you're talking about to what the answer is there. So if you've got specific examples, Tara, that you would like to kind of get an understanding on, if we were to move to NetSuite and these are the systems we're using, would we be looking at additional costs to customize those, or is there natives? Feel free to send that over and we can get back to you with the specifics.
We've got another question here from Ashish, and he's asking a bit about budgets. And we all know the answer to this question, which is exciting. I know you'll get excited, Simon. So can we prepare budgets directly in NetSuite with all the cost codes, or do you prepare them elsewhere and then upload them into NetSuite?
You can do either. You can absolutely do them externally and load them in, and you can put them in directly in NetSuite. Now, I guess, again, as with everything that we've discussed, it kind of really does depend on your use case. NetSuite has the ability, you can go into the budget screen in NetSuite for a specific financial year, for a specific subsidiary, for a specific department, and enter your budget numbers in. However, if you're looking to do things like drivers that, if one record does something, like an employee count drives a number, that's where we would be looking at that NetSuite planning and budgeting tool, NSPB, to do a lot of that. Native NetSuite budgeting, you can certainly input your budget, but having a lot of that drivers and business rules and logic behind it requires NSPB. Or alternatively, if you've got all of that modeling externally, absolutely take that, and we can do simple CSV imports to pull all of that data into NetSuite. So it really depends on the use case there.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Simon. And another couple from AV, just saying about the capital budgeting, okay, as far as being able to build out an ROI and the hurdles, and what does that look like in NetSuite? Can that be done, and do we need maybe a Suite app to look at that? So that's from a construction business.
That's not something that I'm familiar with. It's probably one that we'll have to take offline and come back to you. It's not something that I've personally seen, but that's not necessarily indicative of the fact of whether NetSuite can or can't do it. Avi, we can come back to you offline on that one.
Right. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, no, that's fine. And no, absolutely fine. And I can certainly, we've got some great resources for that as well, Avi, so we'll come back to you on that one. So Nigel has got just around the fixed asset module, and just the cost component. The cost components of that, is it purchased or billed later? Can you do partial disposals? Can you split the cost into components for later partial disposals? Can you do cost components of different depreciation rates as part of the parent asset, i.e. leasehold improvements on one property, etc.? Can we look at something like that with the NetSuite fixed assets or asset management?
You can certainly have parent assets and child assets. So if you've got an asset with components, you can absolutely do that. And then you can dispose of the individual components or child assets, as NetSuite would call them, at a later date. You can then absolutely add in additional components as child assets of parent at a later date as well. If you've got an individual asset that you want to split rather than having a parent-child relationship, that's possible if you've added, when you create the asset record, if you create it as more than one quantity. So, let's say it's made up of 3 components, you put quantity 3 in a single asset, then you can split it amongst those 3. If you create a single asset with one, a quantity of 1, then NetSuite, thinks it's a single asset and there's nothing really to split. Partial disposals, again, it comes back to that piece. If you've got something with multiple quantity, you can split out the part that you want to dispose of and dispose of that. And if it's a parent-child relationship, you can absolutely dispose of the children. However, if you've got a single asset, you can either dispose of it or not. It really depends on how you've created the assets as you've gone. From the different depreciation rates to the parent asset, something that I will just need to confirm, the way that assets work within NetSuite is you apply an asset type to the asset. So as an example, you might have leasehold improvements as your asset type that you've mentioned, and you may have motor vehicles, and you may have furniture and fittings. Each of those is an asset type within NetSuite, and that allows you to set a default depreciation method. It allows you to set default GL accounts, default asset life. Then within the child assets, when you create an individual asset within NetSuite, you can override the depreciation method to set whatever depreciation method you want. The only thing I'm not 100% sure on is the parent-child relationship, if NetSuite requires you to have any consistency between the two. That's something we'd have to come back to, but ordinarily speaking, you can create whatever depreciation method you want for any individual asset, and they can be different across every asset that you own, potentially, if that was required.
Great. Thanks, Simon. And we'll delve into that and come back to Nigel on that piece. Av's got this is a real exciting one. Now, just in regarding NetSuite versus Financial Force. So the comparison. So NetSuite is it based off a data cube system architecture like Financial Force or not?
I'm not familiar with Financial Force enough to be able to give you a really clear answer here, I'm afraid. Have you come across Financial Force much before, Paula?
I have.
Are you able to take this question?
I know. I'm pretty honest in how I approach it, but no, I certainly don't know the details of the cube system architecture, and I think that's just because of the components of it and how it's held together with Financial Force versus Salesforce. But I think that's a real good one to get Bart involved on that question. I don't come across Financial Force a lot and haven't in my years, probably about once or twice. Salesforce, absolutely, but not Financial Force. So Avi will certainly come back to you about that one. Okay, he did an implementation about 6 years ago. So yeah, so interesting. Okay, well, Avi, we'll certainly come back to you on that question and have a discussion around that and just see where we can sort of assist with you. We've had another question come through. How large are the businesses coming to you wanting to upgrade to NetSuite?
It's a really interesting question. If we're speaking specifically about Xero to NetSuite, they tend to be on the smaller size or businesses that are growing. My experience with that is, the specific example that comes to mind is a business that had a single subsidiary in Australia, was looking to expand to US and Canada, wanted 2 additional subsidiaries there, and had grown a lot of their processes around requirements and integration with a CRM platform. They were an ASX listed business, in the tech space, and they had a lot of requirements around software as a service reporting as well that they couldn't get from, or that we couldn't get from Xero. So that was the look there. On the flip side, if we're talking more broadly about moving to NetSuite from other systems, we have some of Australia's largest companies that are our clients that have moved to NetSuite. I was involved when I first got in touch with Annexa 10 plus years ago. It was with one of Australia's largest companies that moved from, I can't recall the system now, into NetSuite. And I think it really does vary. I've been involved with implementations of businesses that are approximately 80 people with finance teams of 3 or 4 to businesses of over 1,000 people with finance teams of 100 plus. So it really does depend.
Yeah, agreed. And we've got a question here from Pragati. And does NetSuite have the capability to run global payroll, or do we need to integrate with a third-party payroll provider?
So there is a native app within NetSuite. It's called Infinite Cloud. That's the one that we tend to recommend to clients. I've implemented it myself externally and for clients. That does payroll for Australia, New Zealand, the UK and Canada. It does not do the US. US payroll is quite complex. I've been involved with that previously as well. So I don't believe, from what I've seen, that there's a native payroll for the US within NetSuite, so that would require third-party integration. Another example, the latest implementation that just begun in the last couple of weeks, they're moving from Xero to NetSuite. They're actually going to delay the payroll migration to a phase 2. So this comes back to that scalability and the ability to chop and change. They're going to continue to use Xero for payroll whilst they get the main part of their implementation done. They're a big manufacturing product, so they're looking at a lot of inventory and integrations with warehouses. They want to do all of that first. They're going to continue with Xero payroll and just load in journals via CSV, and then they'll move into the payroll system down the line. So it really, Pragati, it depends on where your payroll is, which countries it's for, and whether or not that can be integrated or whether it's native.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, thanks, Simon. And probably to add to that as well, we work with quite a few strategic partners that do payroll and or HR globally. We have got a lot of global customers, so we can facilitate that for you for sure. So we really look at what those requirements are and then recommend who we believe would be the best fit for that business. And as Simon said, you know, you want to sort of crawl before you can run. You don't want to be biting off everything all at once. You know, you've got your risk assessment, you've got your change management within that. So that's where we really come to the forefront, being from a consultative lens rather than the vendor, really sort of getting into the weeds of your business and getting the ultimate result that's nice and streamlined. And yeah, it's that's what we do at Annexa. So it's really exciting. But wow, we've had so many people on today. That's absolutely amazing. We really appreciate your time. Gosh, it goes so fast. So look, off the back of this session, we will send the recordings out for you so you can go back to them and review. The questions that we've got here that we haven't been able to answer, we'll reach out and talk to you about that online session and answer those questions and run through anything else that you've got that we can assist you with. And by all means, yeah, we're really excited. We have had a huge attendance today, and it just goes to show, you know, Xero is a great platform. Don't get us wrong whatsoever. Small business, great, you know, but when you start to grow, when you start to scale, those little plugins with Xero, they start to fail. And when you get large transaction lines, you know, you start seeing speed humps. And when you're down in business over days or maybe even hours, you quantify that to money, and you know it makes sense to look at what you need to move forward with a platform like NetSuite. So it's really exciting, and yeah, we look forward to reaching out over the next few days, and absolutely we will reach out. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Pragati. Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Have a lovely day in Queensland. I'm in New Zealand, everybody, so you can probably recognise from my accent. So have a great day and we'll reach out. Thanks for joining us.